Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and this is a quick full flight tutorial for the Citation 10 by FlightFX. Today we have a 2-hour flight where we'll be cruising at 43,000 feet from Aspen, Colorado to John Wayne, Orange County, California. Let's get started. First, if you're in Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 and you are in walk-around mode, make sure to always remove all of the flags and engine covers because that can cause issues later on. Let's go ahead and open up the front door and we'll go inside and hop into the cockpit. And before we start up, we'll go into our EFB here on the left and we'll go over to ground services. Here we can also turn off all our engine covers, chocks, and our doors. We'll go ahead and connect our ground power and hit the home button, and now we'll go to the wait screen, and you can actually import your sim brief information here, but it's currently not working for me, so we'll do it manually. Based on my filed flight plan, we need 5,500 and 7,000 pounds of fuel, so I'm going to take this here and just kind of scroll it over until we get in that ballpark. That is good right there. We have 6 passengers on board today. All you need to do is click on each seat and then go down here. You can set the weight for each passenger individually. You do have to do this individually. So you can just kind of go through here and just set whatever random weight you want to set and whatever random seat you want to set it to. And down here for luggage, I'm expecting 300 pounds of cargo. So we'll do that. And once we're done, we'll hit apply. And now we're done with the EFB. So we do have external power, but the startup I'm going to show you is going to work whether you have external power or not. We're going to go ahead and click on external power on. And then we'll go down here, we'll hit the standby power to on. And then over here, we'll do emergency lights to armed. You'll see that red light come on. And then battery 1 and battery 2. Next to the right of the battery, we have the ICAS. We'll click on that. Our screens will start to come to life. While those are turning on, we'll slide to the right side. And over here, you can find your lighting, your external lights. I'm just going to turn my nav lights on so people around us know that we're in here and we're getting started. While we're on this side, over here on the right side panel next to the co-pilot, we get our APU panel. We'll go to APU master to on, APU generator to on, and then APU start to the up position, and APU will start firing up. And once the APU is stabilized and powered on, we can go our bleed air to the up position. And now back over to the left side on the pilot seat, we'll get our avionics turned on. And then we'll move on to setting up our INS alignment. And to do that, we'll go down to our FMS here and hit position initialization. Click on that. Give it a few seconds. Then GPS 1 position will load. Just click load on the right side there. And then click flight plan. Now, we're going to go continue down to center pedestal here. Down here, we have our nav switches. So go that to nav and nav. And that'll start your alignment. You can actually set up in the EFB how long you want your alignment to be, whether that be realistic or instant. And while we wait for our INS to align, this is when I like to set my radios up, get my IFR clearance and things like that. To do that in this aircraft, as you can see, we have our radio panels down here, which you can select and use. We're going to use the FMC to do it. So if I click on nav and then tune, I now have my radio panel. And I'm just going to tune into the ATIS to get the weather. So 120.4 here in Aspen.
Aspen Pitkin County Airport. Information X-ray. 0453 Zulu.
And if you want to use this radio panel down here, just click on the button next to the green COM number and then use this tune knob here to go to 12375, which is going to be the frequency for clearance delivery. Once you have your frequency pre-selected, you just click on the arrow above it and then it switches over. Okay, clearance has been received. We're going to go ahead and set our altimeter up right here. So 3025 is local altimeter, and we need to set that 2 times, 1 time there, and also down here on our main PFD, we can use this button down here to do that. 3025 is set. All right, now down to the FMC. To begin, we'll go to nav button. I'll go to SimBrief, and here's where you can put your SimBrief ID if you want to import your SimBrief flight plan for a much quicker way of putting your flight plan in. I'm going to hit flight plan recall on the bottom right. That's going to say request pending. Once that's done, that's going to import our entire flight plan from simbrief.com. If you don't have an account yet, get one. All of these planes usually support importing your entire flight plan. Saves you so much time. So now we're gonna click on departure, and our departure will be runway 33. We'll click on the button next to runway 33. The departure will be Pitkin 5. We'll click on that. And if we hit the next key, we can see our entire flight plan here and make sure everything is here. One thing that is missing is our actual arrival and approach information, which you can do later on in the flight, but I like to get it out of the way here at the beginning. To do that, we'll click on nav again. We'll click on arrival. We'll select our approach runway, if you know what it is. For us, that's runway 20 right. We'll expect the RNAV, Zulu runway 20 right, via J-word, but we will use the ILS frequency to get in there. Our standard terminal arrival, or star, will be the Disney 6, and our transition onto the Disney 6 is going to be on the next page, so click next and go to Nate. And once we're done and we're happy with that, we'll hit activate. And here I'll put in my passenger amount, which we have 6 passengers on board today's flight to John Wayne from Aspen. For cargo, we have 300. 300, we'll drop that right there. You can also just hit sync to EFB, and we'll hit confirm initialization. Now we'll continue to the takeoff page, so click takeoff. Here you'll put your weather information, starting off with the temperature here on the left. For us, that is actually already correct, but if it wasn't, I can click like 16 here and type right there. Altimeter is again 3025, so 30 decimal. Do not forget the decimal. 25, drop that right there. And then our winds are actually variable here at 5 knots, so just put 0/5 and then next. There's no rain in the area, so it's a dry runway, so leave it as is. Next. And we'll be taking off flaps 15, confirm in it. And on the next page, you can see your V speeds. And so that is it for the FMC. It is time to get the engines started. So here in the very back of the center pedestal is your parking brake. Make sure that parking brake is indeed set. We'll go to our EFB to ground services and make sure the main door is closed and the chocks are removed. Since our APU is on, we don't need the ground power anymore, so we'll disconnect that as well. And then we'll get our seatbelt signs on for our passengers. So seatbelt signs on, and our anti-collision lights so that people around us know that we're about to start our aircraft. And now for the engine start, a very easy, simple engine start in this aircraft. All you need to do is click on this engine start RH for the right engine. Look up here, you'll see N2 is going to rise. Once it gets past 10%, you can go down here and click just on the bottom of the base of the throttle. That'll put the throttle into throttle idle and introduce fuel into the igniters and fire up the engines. And once that engine is stable, you will repeat the process on the left engine. Once again, just click on the black button, LH here under engine start. Click that into rise 10%. Once it hits 10%, click the base of the throttle into throttle idle, and the engines are starting. Alright, we have a good start on both engine 1 and engine 2. We're going to now move down to our flaps and set our flaps for 15. We're going to set the stab trim or pitch trim, which is right here. And need to make sure you have pitch trim mapped or bound to your yoke or joystick. And I'm just going to go ahead and do up trim here till we get into the green for takeoff. There we go. And now that the engines are on, we no longer need the APU, so we'll go ahead and do APU stop. And APU bleed off. And we'll shut down the APU. I like to pop on the auxiliary pump. Also here in the front right corner is your passenger or cabin altitude. We'll be cruising at 43,000 feet. So I'm going to scroll this up until, so the outer layers here are the altitude of the aircraft. So I'm going to go until we get around 43-ish. And so our cabin altitude will actually go up to that when we're up at that height. And while we're over here, we'll also hit the pitot statics, both left and right. And if you need it, you can turn a windshield heat on right below it as well. Alright, with that done, we'll turn the yokes back on and do a quick flight control check to make sure everything is working. So forward, center, up, center, left, and right. Flight control is free and correct. Before we taxi, we'll go ahead and switch over to ground and make sure we are squawking TARA here. And then back here on our throttle, we'll click on a little button on the left here, the thumb switch, That's our toggle switch. If you look at our main PFD, we'll see it says TOTO. And today we will be using the auto throttle system up here. Make sure it's set to FMS. With that, we are ready to taxi. Our taxi lights are back here behind our throttle. So we'll turn our taxi light on and release our brakes. Okay, we're approaching the runway here in Aspen, runway 33. We'll do a couple final checks just to make sure that I didn't miss anything and that you didn't miss anything. So looking in the middle screen here, you see where it says hydraulic aux pump on. If you have text here that's white, then that means they're good. Like, it's not a big deal. If it's in blue or yellow, then you might want to go back and make sure you didn't miss something, because you don't want blue text or yellow text. Also, here on the left screen here, you see we have our V speeds now showing up, which is nice. We also have our FMS1 selected as our main navigation. If it's not, right above here, you can click on Nav, and that switches between VOR and VOR2, and then FMS goes to FMS1. You could also scroll this over to FMS1 if you want to track FMS1 or ADF or whatever. So make sure that is selected correctly. Other than that, if you followed along, we should be good to go. Let's go and get our takeoff clearance and get out of here.
November 116 Bravo, Aspen Tower, runway 33, winds 190 at 8, RNAV Boyette, cleared for takeoff.
RNAV Boyette, runway 33, cleared for takeoff, citation 16 Bravo. Alright, we're ready to go. Landing lights are going to come on down here. One time, two time, and then back over here on the right side, we'll get our anti-collision or strobe lights turned on, recognition lights on, and flood lights on. And we're good to go. Let's go. Oh yeah, one other thing before we take off, they actually put these really cool secret buttons or knobs here for altitude and heading, so you don't have to reach all the way down here to manipulate your altitude and heading. It's pretty inconvenient, and you have to take your hand or your head away from like what's in front of you. So we'll go right here, and I'm gonna select my altitude. So I'm gonna go over the altitude like screw, use my scroll wheel, and go up to 11,000 feet, which is what they told us to climb up to. So once I get there, that is, I keep overshooting, but that's good. Also, the heading is the same way. We can scroll with the heading and put this on runway heading or departure. So I really like that feature, so that way we don't have to look all the way down. Now, if you have this on your hardware, it's not a big deal. Okay, ready to go. I'm gonna push the throttle all the way to the front, all the way to Toga. Release the brakes and power set. I'd like to put on a little bit of forward pressure right there, but there is, the airspeed is alive, 80 knots. And here comes V1. Rotates. A little bit of back pressure there on the yoke. And she comes off the ground nice and smooth. Once you see that vertical speed go up, positive rate, gear up, put your gear up. Very nice. Pitching for about 15 degrees. We're going to push the nose back down or use our trim to do so. We have a lot of terrain ahead of us, but we should be good to go there. Still flying it by hand at the moment, but pretty soon we're going to hand it off to the autopilot, and I'll show you exactly how to do
Citation
that.
16 Bravo, contact departure on 123.8.
Over to departure on 123.8, citation 16 Bravo. I have that pre-selected down here. I'm going to click on 123.8. Departure, citation 16 Bravo is passing 9,000 for 11,000.
November 116 Bravo, Aspen departure, radar contact, climb via the SID.
Climb via SID, citation 16 Bravo. Alright, let's get autopilot going. We're going to click on Nav. That's not going to turn on autopilot. That's just going to have our flight director here actually guide us via the magenta line there. So it's going to continue to follow the magenta line, as they call it. I will go ahead and put on flight change mode. That's going to lock our speed down to 170 knots. We'll go ahead and turn on ATS. That's auto throttle and autopilot. Let go of the yoke, and the aircraft is now handling itself. Let's go flaps up. Alright, flaps are coming up and in motion. We're leveling off 11,000 feet. He said climb via SID. This is our SID. And the top altitude is 19,000, I think, actually. Yeah, so we can actually raise our altitude here. to 19,000. And then we'll hit flight level change again.
Starting the snack and drink service now.
And so once we get above 10,000 feet, the auto throttle will automatically speed us up to 300 knots for the climb. And it'll stay at 300 knots until we get to, I believe it's flight level 300. And then it'll go to Mach 0.8 for the climb.
Departure radar.
Alright, we're all above 10,000 feet. We can turn the
Climb
landing
and
lights
maintain
off
Flight level 200.
and taxi lights off.
Good, directed.
Flaps are completely up, gear is up.
200, Oscar Bravo Alpha.
Oscar Bravo Alpha.
And now that we're cruising, I'm going to show you guys how to kind of customize your MFD to kind of get some more information that you may want and need throughout your flight. So let's go down here and we can take a look here at the second screen, the MFD screen. And this is kind of where you kind of control a lot of things. So here in the bottom row, we can actually click on these buttons to control these. So PFD Setup, we'll click there. We have a few options to change our flight director queue. As you can see that on the left side, that's changing the actual flight director queue. I like the plus marker right there. You can also change from baro to HPA if you want. You can do metric altitudes. Here, we hit return by hitting the arrow to the left. We can customize our MFD screen by clicking on the second option. We can actually show VORs on screen if you want that. You can show airports on screen if you want that. You can also do the terrain radar or show traffic. Either or both. I like to have both on here. And then we have our vertical profile, one of my favorite options down here. I'm gonna click on that button there. We actually see our vertical profile. Now, nothing to see here at the moment because we're just flying straight across. But when we descend, we can actually see our vertical track for descent and for for our departure as well. So on the final button, we can click here and it's just show our wind data, so we can give a good idea what the winds are doing in front of us, which is nice. And then on the right, we have our range, so we can look a bit farther ahead, or we can look closer. Again, we can now see that vertical track there as we zoom all the way out. Now, I've not personally found a way to get the weather radar to work. I don't know if that's implemented, but so we have so far. Let's move on over to our next screen here, where we have our engine information. Same concept. Click the buttons below to control that. Click here. We have fuel hydraulics, which is how I kind of prefer to see it. You have your electricals. You can see here you have your control positions or flight control positions. Then you have your engine switch here to see that. And it is also the ability to go back and see messages if needed as well. You have the same options here on the right side screen. And then in our FMS, if you want to kind of track your progress, you can click on some of the flight plan here and go to progress page and then hit the next page. And then you can see your top of descent. So for me, my top of descent is in 300 miles. And this is the screen that I normally keep up here so that I can kind of keep track of how far out I am till my top of descent. And there's really not much else to worry about during cruise, so I will see you at our top of descent. Alright, we've just reached our top of descent, and in order to get our aircraft to actually descend, we need to lower our altitude to anything below what our current altitude is. So I'm going to go all the way down to, let's say, 8,000 or so for now. I've actually think we've just missed my top of descent. I wasn't paying attention. So if you miss your top of descent like I just did, I'll show you guys how to fix that. So basically all you need to do is keep it in VNAV, but go ahead and click on VS, vertical speed mode, and scroll this nose down, nose up wheel down until you get to about 1,400, 1,500 feet per minute, maybe even 2,000. The point is we're going to try to basically chase down our vertical track. This magenta or pink arrow on the right side is basically where we're supposed to be currently on our VNAV path, and we are above that. So we're going to kind of descend down to capture that. And we do also see our vertical path here on the right, so we're really not that far off, but I just want to catch up to it, and it should, just like with LNAV, it should recapture that vertical track should we capture it. So I may do a bit more than 2,000. Let's try 2,500. Yep, that's my fault. Wasn't paying attention, but this typically happens, and I think it's important to kind of show this example because from time to time you may be away from the computer or whatever, and you miss your top of descent. Now the aircraft does have its own pause at top of descent, option. So if you need that, you can make that happen. I'm chasing the VNAV down with vertical speed because we made a mistake. As you can see there, we're descending about 4,000 feet per minute, and we're catching up the actual VNAV path there. And there it is. V path is now flashing in the green, and the aircraft is adjusting to actually fly the VNAV path now and no longer fly the vertical speed manual path that I created. So that's a good example of, you know, if you forget to hit VNAV, or if you forget to actually capture your top of descent, that's one way to do it. Not the best way to do it, but I think this is a good example. And while we're descending, this is a good time as we're approaching 18,000 feet to kind of do our arrival and approach briefing and make sure that we stay ahead of the aircraft. So a few things we need to do. For one, I'm going to set my bottom altitude for our final approach fix, which in my case into John Wayne, that's going to be around 2,200 feet. So the VNAV path will take us all the way down to 2,200 feet, even on the RNAV approach. Speaking of the approaches, go back to our FMS. I'm going to click on Perf, and I'm going to go to Landing. And here we can put in our arrival information. So in John Wayne currently today with live weather, we have the winds are 260 at 3 knots. I'm going to click 260/3. We'll put that on the right side here underneath wind. There we go. And the outside air temperature, or OAT, is showing 20 degrees Celsius. So we'll click to 0 and put that here on the left. And then the altimeter, which is going to be 3001. That's 30.01. Do not forget the decimal. Drop that right there. And then move on to the next page. Again, no rain in the area, so it's going to be a dry runway. So we'll leave that as is. Next. It will not be using any anti-ice, so that'll be off, and our flaps will be full at 35. Click on landing data, and that will show us our landing weights, estimated use of the runway, and on the next page, it gives us our actual landing speeds. So I'll go back to flight plan for now, and we are doing the RNAV approach, so it's important to kind of look through your flight plan and make sure that all the altitudes and speeds are correct. I won't be going too deep into that today because your flight plan might be different, but what we will do is I'll go ahead and tune in the ILS. Even though we're flying the RNAV, the runway we're landing on still has an ILS, so we'll still kind of monitor that. So I'll click on nav here, and we'll go to tune, back to our radios, and the ILS frequency is 111.75, so we'll go ahead and hit 111.75 and put that here on the bottom left under nav 1. Again, you could also put that down here as well if you wanted to, but it's much easier for me to put it here. So that's going to track our ILS, so we can still capture it using approach mode when we get closer. And based on the weather we just got, let's go ahead and plug in our barometric pressure here. So we'll go ahead and go to baro set. That's going to be 3001 there, and then 3001 there. Nice. All right, while descending past 10,000 feet, we'll get our landing lights on. All right, we're dipping now below the clouds. We're currently on a left base leg here, as you can see here on our flight track. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to manage speed mode, so I can take a bit more control of my speed. I'm going to bring our speed back to about approach mode, which is around 147-ish. It's kind of like the typical approach speed. And we'll add in some spoilers as well to kind of get us slowed down quite a bit. Now again, I do have the ILS on nav 1, 111.75, and we're now turning in. And so what I'm going to do is, even though we're on the RNAV and we don't need to use the ILS in particular, I am going to at least arm it. So if I go up here and click on approach mode, with the ILS dialed in, we should actually still capture the ILS as well. We still have the pink, we still have the vertical navigation, VPath, all that looks good. Yeah, we don't really need the ILS, but we got it. So there it is. Our speed is now down at 147. We actually start adding in some flaps now. And we go gear down as well, as we are on final. And then as that slows down, we could also go down to our actual final approach speed, which is
November
124.
116 Bravo, John Wayne Tower.
So we'll scroll
Wind
that back
20 at 3.
till we get to
Runway
around
20 right,
124.
cleared to land.
Runway 20
And
right,
speed is
clear
going
to
to come
land.
back,
November 116
and we're now
Bravo.
dipping below these clouds here on our way into Orange County. John Wayne. Let's bring that altitude down. There we go. Alright, there the speed's there. We'll go flaps full now. Gear's already down. We can see that our flaps are down here. And our gear is showing 3 green, which means our gear is indeed down.
American 452, contact departure.
And if we wanted to, we could also go VOR1 here. Go nav mode.
Switching to departure, American 452.
But we'll leave it on FMS mode. It's going to be much easier for us today.
That's the 7 Victor Mike, contact departure.
And once we get visual of the runway, we'll take control ourselves and fly it in. This plane flies beautifully. Here we go, approaching 20 right over the parking lots here at Orange County. John Wayne. 20 right. A little high. And I think we're going to be floating a bit here.
Make contact departure.
Oh, took us half the runway to land, but we got it.
Thank you.
Maya, roger, frequency change approved, good day.
Someone Tower, of course, Mike and Alpha, passing signal peak at 1,950 inbound for 20 left.
There you go. This was not a landing tutorial. Welcome to John Wayne. I really hope this video did actually help you have a better understanding of how to fly the Citation 10. I've been really personally enjoying flying it a lot, and so hopefully you have a better understanding of it and can better enjoy it yourself. Have any questions, as always, leave them down in the comments.
Passengers informed.
Until next time, remember you got 3 choices: give up, give in, or give it all you got. Peace, love, and God bless you. I'll see you guys next time, next video. I'm out.